First question we got, what does it mean that Jesus disappeared from their sight? Did he just blip out? Yes. It doesn't tell us like what that actually was, but I think a couple of things to consider. Right? So when Jesus is resurrected, he's resurrected with a human body. So post-resurrection, Jesus did not go back to just spiritual form, like he keeps his body. But he also has a glorified body, which for Jesus means he can both eat and he can just blip out. I don't know what that means for our glorified bodies. Maybe that means that. But he also has, at that point, all authority in heaven and earth has been given unto him. So if he wants to blip out, he certainly can. But yes, that does seem to be like they're there and then all of a sudden he's not there, which is kind of really a cool thing to think about. In Scripture, who exactly is the, quote, anointed one? Great question. So anointed one, so the Hebrew word is Messiah. Anytime you hear the word Messiah, really what that means is anointed one. And what you'll find, particularly as you read through the story of the Old Testament, is the identity of the anointed one is kind of being developed as you read it. There's sort of like, I heard someone describe it once as like this silhouette that begins to be formed through the Old Testament of who this anointed one will be. And so you have several anointed people in the Old Testament. You have someone like David, who's a king. He's anointed. But then you also read the story of David and find that God tells him that there's one who's going to come from the line of David who will be the anointed one. And you see that in a couple of different places. And so as you read through the Old Testament, you get this picture, even when you get into Isaiah's prophecy, like in Isaiah chapter 53, of this one who is to come, who will be like a king, yet will also suffer. And so when Jesus appears, he is the only one in Scripture who willingly allows that title to be applied to him. He's the only one, people ask him if he's the Messiah, are you the anointed one, are you the one that we're supposed to expect? And he never denies that. In fact, many times he affirms it. And even in that passage that we read, Jesus affirms the fact that the Old Testament said that this Messiah was going to come who would suffer and die. He says that essentially that's him. And so that Messiah figure, that anointed figure, is Jesus, who is the one that God sent to rescue and redeem all people. So good question. It does appear several times. Another question we got, can you provide a list of all the books you read for this series? I can try. I do have, so if you go to wingfootchurch.com/practice, all of the practice guides that we've been giving out are also available there on a digital form, but then I also have I think it's currently 4 books. I'm going to probably add 2 more by the end of the series. 4 books that were really helpful in my processing from this. So there's a book called How Not to Read the Bible. It's a fairly recent book by a guy by the name of Dan Kimball. He talks about how to make sense of violence, gender and sexuality, slavery, and science in the Bible. So it's a really, really helpful read, particularly if you find yourself stuck on some of those things. So How Not to Read the Bible. Reading While Black is a book that Dr. Esau McCauley wrote a couple years ago that I think is a really good book as far as kind of understanding culture and interpreting the Bible. He's a biblical scholar, but he also talks about his experience as a African-American scholar and how he brings those things together to make sense of the Bible. And some of the things that he talks about in there I think are really helpful if that's not your experience, to just understand what does it mean to read the Bible as a person who has a background, who has a culture, who has an ethnicity, to make sense of it. So that's a really, really good read. The other one I have in there is How to Read the Bible for All It's Worth by Stuart Fee. This is one of my required readings in both my undergrad and my graduate experience. It's a really accessible book. He talks about how you kind of make sense of the Bible in its different kind of forms and genres and that kind of stuff. And then I also included on there a link to the Bible Project. If you are not aware of the Bible Project, you absolutely should be. It's Dr. Tim Mackey is just a biblical scholar who also is a millennial, and so he understands the power of the internet. And so he's created a whole library of YouTube resources that get into the background of the Bible. And so they have I think it's a 23 video sequence on how to read the Bible that I took like seminary courses on how to read the Bible. This is better. So, and you don't have to pay for it. So Check that out. They get into like the unique dynamics of like narrative versus poetry versus prophecy versus letters. It's just really, really helpful. And they've got a great podcast too. So that's all free. If you want to know more books, I could probably generate a few more off the top of my head. Lastly, do we have to watch another insufferable Marvel Universe movie again? No. Maybe. We'll see. Every couple of years, they're like, we're gonna reboot it. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be beautiful. We'll see what they do with Doctor Doom.